News 24 spoke with Tara Newall, emergency coordinator for Doctors Without Borders in Sudan, about a large influx of refugees.
Well, there was a mass influx of refugees that started to arrive in South Sudan already last year, in September and October. And from what the people were telling us, based on fleeing of violence and aerial bombing, indiscriminate aerial bombing on their villages in the Blue Nile state. So that led to the formation of a number of refugee camps just across the border in the Maban region of the Upper Nile state of South Sudan. So this stabilized into two refugee camps, not very good locations for refugee camps due to the geography and the inaccessibility of the area, but nonetheless the two refugee camps were formed. But things became significantly more acute when, starting about 4 weeks ago, so in the month of May, there was an additional influx of nearly 40,000 additional refugees to add to the already existing, 100,000 that were on the ground. And so when this additional influx had come in, what people had told us was that the aerial bombing had evolved into ground fighting, and there had been quite a lot of violence where people had reported to us that people had been burned alive in their homes, that people had been attacked and shot while they were trying to flee. And again, this is what the refugees are telling us themselves. But to be honest, any of those who have been wounded in the conflict are unlikely to make the walk. Some of the refugees have told us they've been walking for 2 months since the conflict has started. So people in the conflict area don't have access to medical care. A lot of them don't make it. And what refugees have told me is that those that are severely wounded often get left behind. With the rainy season coming, this area becomes highly floodable land. And so as much as I can address mortality and as much as I can address the need for desperate drinking water, this camp soon will be underwater, and then people don't have an acceptable place to live. And so do I think the living conditions here will become acceptable anytime soon? I would have to say no. The only way that would happen is if these people were relocated out of this location into another location that provided an acceptable living environment. Delivering of services, I think a number of different challenges we face. I think the one that all actors on the ground are facing is just pure accessibility. The location where we're resting right now on the border between South Sudan and North Sudan really requires airlift capacity. So a lot of the roads have been cut off due to the rains. Rainy season is a very difficult season for South Sudan. A lot of the roads are cut off, and so the actors that work here really need to have airlift capacity to bring in all of their supplies and relief items. And that also requires an airstrip that can accommodate large aircraft to bring in supplies, which we don't have access to until only recently. So one of the biggest challenges is that, and of course, along with that, is how much that costs. So the cost of airlifting in all of the relief supplies are actually quite high. So the result of that, of course, is that you would limit the number of actors on the ground. There aren't that many organizations out there who have enough funding, who have enough money to airlift in all of the supplies required. So if we want to reduce mortality very quickly, supply water to these people, that is a desperate need for these people to have water very quickly, and to provide livable conditions for this vast refugee population, there is a greater response required on the ground. That is clear. What's really hard to convey over the telephone is just the gravity of the situation and the difficulties these people have in just surviving day to day. So if I was to leave you with any message at all, was simply that the people who are on the receiving end of this message understand that life here for these people is extremely difficult. Just sheerly surviving each day is a challenge, and more resources really are needed to respond if we want to save as many lives as possible.